Hello, my name is Tim Bernard, and this is Beyond the Headlines, the year-end review of what's been going on. I've been pretty busy this year. As most of you know, I was out of the country all summer. We'll talk just briefly about that, but primarily we are going to be running through the big stories of the year, not all of them, and we can't go in to them as in depth as we did during the year because there are so many. Things are moving so fast right now and so much is going on. This is a time to be aware and awake. And if you don't want to be awake, if you don't know what is going on around you, you have come to the wrong place. You definitely want to go somewhere else, either go to sleep, or believe the lies, either the left lies, the right lies, or the holy lies. They're all getting in their fair share of propaganda these days. I've been pretty busy. I was pretty broke when I came back. Been moving, trying to set up a new studio and stuff. And when I am doing everything, not only being the talking head, but the producer, director, IT guy, reporters, the financier of the project. So anyway, I've been busy. Sorry I haven't been able to do any live shows. Of course, I've been doing a bunch of special reports this fall that have been pretty hard-hitting, primarily taken from stuff from the folks at Infowars.com, a great site. This is my website, bsfreepress.net, where I have links to hundreds of hours of free videos, documentaries, on a wide range of subjects and topics from health and energy, geopolitics, economics. If you want to know how, get some history on how economics really works, what's really going on, there's some great documentaries there. But we're not the high-priced boys. I don't read a script. I do have one of the latest things, this new format, of course, is people have their little cheat sheets, which if you notice they never look at because they have the expensive teleprompters and stuff in front. And I do have a few notes I made just going through some of the old stories. I've also got my laptop here is on the left. We're doing a new system. Hopefully it'll be a little bit faster using a new TV that I picked up as a monitor. So we got a screen. It might not be as big as some of the other folks', but it's all we could afford right now. And one thing that you don't hear anyone talking about, of course, is how far gone we really are. Now, I have a permanent link to this book right here. This is a book written not by someone like me. This is written by them. Because just as we'll show you, the fellow before calls the people stupid. They've called us useless eaters. They, as Hitler said, fortunately for leaders, that their people are unwilling to think. And in this book, it says that humanity is the problem. And of course, eugenics is what is going on. Anyone who's not telling you that is either ignorant or a liar, or they're mentally challenged, because it's out there at grade school level. I've shown you so many times the Georgia Guidestones. For you holy people, especially you Catholics who are silent on this subject, a fellow named Cardinal Ratzinger, I have a permanent link to his article where he says it's our duty, especially as Christians, to protest this. And so many of you do nothing. You just sit on your laurels with your nose in the air, and you are nothing but peacocks at a party. No different than the Pharisees of our Lord's time. And remember what he said to those who are lukewarm. Look it up. It's in the book of Revelation. The world's already been divided up. Our country, as a subsection of the global unit, has been divided into 10 units. There's a governor's plan. 10 governors to rule these regions, the 10 FEMA regions. Look it up. Don't believe me. But I'd urge you to go and check this out, where it lays out what they're doing. And that was written 40 years ago. And those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. How can you know what's coming when you don't know what was? How can you know who you are if you don't know who your ancestors were, where we've come from? We do have a past. Learn it. Don't believe what I say. Check it out. Here's one of these top globalists, David Rockefeller, thanking the mainstream media, which is all bought off, about, this is from a trilateral commission, and this is all biblical stuff being divided up. You can see it and read it, and it's going to become very apparent in the very near future. And we'll get into some stuff that happened and didn't happen this year that will show just how close we're coming to this beast system that they are building. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But here he just talks about, oh yeah, wouldn't it be preferable to have the supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers? Is surely preferable to national autodetermination practiced in the past centuries. That's the last line here. I don't think so, because their plan, as clearly stated on the Georgia Guidestones, is to maintain a population of 500 million on the earth. That's over 90% of the people gotta go. So go ahead and leave if that's what you think. But don't take me out or any of the people that I care for. And I care for everyone. That's who I care for. Even those who hate me, I pray for. There are people in the shadows who are controlling the wars, the destiny, what is going on. How bad it's going to be depends on what we do. If we sit back on our laurels, it's going to be much worse. Since the last time we'll probably see Ben, the traitor, of course he was called the Savior just a few years ago, as in this whole fake collapse that went on. Here he is at a congressional hearing giving us the finger. And we did some articles this year about him getting paid off handsomely, making hundreds of thousands of dollars just having a little phone call with people, or giving a talk for several $100,000 a pop. A good job if you can get it. But if you've sold your soul and benefited these people, they'll repay you handsomely. And not many people withstand the amount of scratch that they lay out. And Yellen is the new person. No different than the old. There was a story, and I've talked about it before, how Ben Bernanke gave a speech to, I believe it was a Bankers Association or something, before he became head of the Fed, where he laid out what the goals were and what they planned to do. One of them was just, again, partially realized, even though, because they lay this on multiple times, just in that last budget that was passed, which we'll talk about near the end of the show. But that's tying us on to the derivatives of all the U.S. companies, you know, too big to fail, too big to jail. And there's been no difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. I mean, they fight about some window dressing, but they never get into the heart of the matter, which is what our country was really founded on. And it's what our founding fathers talked about. And not too long ago, there was a G20 meeting. And the new trader-in-chief, Janet Yellen, was practicing for the final option, which has been talked about for years now, and that's to have this, it looks like they'll probably call it a global currency reset, and they're going to devalue our dollar dramatically. That won't show up right away, but as it filters through the system, this is going to be very detrimental to many people in America, because we're not going to be the reserve currency of the world anymore. That's coming to an end, and the countries are getting themselves positioned for this, because while we've been sitting on our laurels and our fearless leaders have been selling us out, the rest of the world has been getting ready for what is coming as much as possible. Especially, well, we'll get into that in a second, but that's what we're going to see is like a banking holiday. It'll just be over the weekend, some weekend. We don't know when. They'll look for an excuse because they have to blame someone else. That's how it's always done. And as Thomas Jefferson said, a nation which expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization expects that which never was and never will be. They've already got the prisons built. We're at the final stages of this. I mean, we've shown you the documents from the government, from the military, because they were leaked to us from people inside the military. We called the base, and you can see them. They've got their phone number. You can call them up and look it up for the internment camps. And it shows how to run them. And the lady said, oh, well, you're not supposed to have that document. And then, of course, she said, well, it's really not for Americans, it's for people overseas. And that's another lie. Because we actually read the document, you know, sort of strange. We know how to read. We don't take liars' words for that. And right in there it says that you can use Social Security numbers to identify people and as our label. And it just lays out what's going to go on. Going on for those of us living here in the Seattle area and in Washington, there were just some protests in Spokane, just literally today, over this military vehicle there. And the guy right on tape, a police officer, right on tape, saying that, oh yeah, we need this to combat people that are believe in the Constitution. You know, well, wait a minute, that's the law of the land. Well, you see, one of the problems with the Constitution is it's not 2,000 pages long. It's very short. It's very easy to understand. The Bill of Rights is very simple. That's why they write long bills, and actually that's something that our founding fathers said, because there's nothing new going on here. The corruption is rampant. It's everywhere. Everywhere. And it's like the author of well, actually, Aldous Huxley is the author of Brave New World. And what he said was, facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. And for those of you who are wholly thinking, oh, I'm going to get out of it, I'm in all this, why don't you take a look at sin in the Catechism? It says feigned ignorance, because that's really what's going on. The reason people don't pretend they don't know what's going on is because it's not comfortable. We've got a good quote on that coming up shortly. But we are the resistance. The V, which was used during the Vietnam era, it was also used by the partisans in France. They would just mark a V and let the Germans know that they knew what was going on. And there is resistance now. This is an information war. Knowledge is power. That's why they're doing everything to kill the internet. And by kill it, I don't mean take it down and take it away, because WWW stands for Worldwide Wiretap. No, what they want to do is control content, like what I'm doing right now. They're working on it. They want to take the China model. I mean, there's a huge battle that goes on below the surface. The surface being the fake press, the mainstream bought-off media. Because, in case you don't know, there's 6 companies who basically control 90% of the media in America. Yeah. That's what's going on. The poor people of Syria, this beautiful little girl, we caused the war. The people, and it all has to do with the banking system. They're not a part of they're one of the few countries in the world. There's less than a handful left now that are not part of this global banking system. And Iraq was one of them. Afghanistan was one of them. Libya was one of them. And all the main countries, there's only a few small ones now. Syria, North Korea, and Iran. And that's the real reason they want to go in there. Things have gotten so much worse in Syria. And not that Assad was the greatest guy since Swiss cheese. He was much better than his father geopolitically. But at least he was beginning to get reforms and opening up the society. And people could live in peace and worship how they wished, which is more important. And the same was going on in Libya. I mean, and Gaddafi wasn't the greatest guy, but he was trying to set up a Pan-African Union, which wasn't in the globalist plan. That's one of the reasons they're going after Putin right now. Not because Russia's not a part of this global system, because it's polarizing. We'll talk a little more geopolitically in a little bit, but he's been trying to protect his country, where the Obamas, the Bushes, and the Clintons, and everyone since JFK have been just trying to sell out our country. That's what's been going on. And here's one of the main authors of the Constitution, James Madison. I believe he was our 4th president. No nation could preserve its freedom in the midst of continual warfare. And another quote that he had was, the problem with warfare is that it breeds debt and taxes, and that warfare is the known instrument of the few to bring about the enslavement of the many. See, this is an old game, centuries old. There's nothing new. The progressives aren't progressives. They're regressives. The conservatives, they're not conservatives. They're sellouts. That's what they are. That's what they've done. There's so much evidence, it's so overwhelming. You have to have your head in the sand not to know what is going on. I have another permanent link to Eisenhower. We don't have time. I've played him giving his military-industrial complex speech many times. where he says it's going to get into every facet of our life, including our churches. And it's in our churches. Of course, they won't admit it, but it's in there. You can see it when you learn the game. And he also warned us of a scientific technological elite. Because by controlling the money, you can steer science. Because you can buy off, if you've been to college, you know what's going on at all at college, unless you were just a yes boy. You found out right away that they're being led. They're following the money. But our Lord knows what's going on and what is coming. We're also going to talk about some prophecy today in this show, because it's unfolding before our very eyes. And what will be coming is the reign of the Immaculate Heart of Mary and her Son, our Lord and Savior, the Messiah, the Promised One, the Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, the Son of God. And as we are here just before Christmas, what did Jesus say to Pilate? I came into this world to bear witness to the truth. So few of his ministers bear witness to the truth. Even, I mean, I've just met so many. They just don't want to know because it's not comfortable to know. They can be holy in every other thing, but their flesh. They're really not willing to die. They're really not willing to not be liked by people. Because that's what happens when you tell the truth. That's why there's two crosses in the truth. The first one is to seek out the truth and to begin to learn it. The second cross, which is so much bigger, is to deal with it. At least you should want to protect yourself and your family and friends. Because this isn't going to be felt the same by everyone. But remember, at the end of time, while we are not saved by what we do, there are rewards for what we do. That's said many times in the Bible. For those of you who think you're just going to be whisked away and you're not going to have to deal with this, or you don't want to for whatever reason, there will be rewards at the end of time. You wanted it comfortable on earth? So did that rich man that we don't even know his name. But Lazarus, the poor man with the sores, he's in the bosom of Abraham. That's where I want to be. I seek the truth and bear witness to it. And you have to ask yourself, how far have we fallen? Look at what happened with the sex scandal. I remember a story when I was out here in Seattle in the 90s about a guy, a priest opens a door, looks in, and sees one of his fellow priests doing one of the altar boys. What did he do? He shut the door and walked away. Now, if these are the holy men, what do you think the guys are like who aren't even trying to be holy at all? What do you think they're going to be like? They've completely sold their souls for a little bit of temporal power. Because I tell you, truthfully, the sex scandal is the tip of the iceberg of what is wrong with the church. And the church has only begun to be purified. It has only begun. We were warned about this 400 years ago. This is a church-approved apparition. Our Lady of Good Success. Satan will reign almost completely in the 20th century. The passions will erupt and there will be total corruption of customs. Look at the marriage going on. Sodomy, oh, it's okay. Everything is just, oh, it's all okay. It's all good. Whatever makes you feel good. Be run by the Messianic sects, and they're going to go after the children. That's why they want the schools. And that's nothing new. That's what Hitler went for. They go for the children. And we've done tons of stuff, and I have tons of stuff on my website about that. It's ongoing right now. Common Core. Right out of so many stories I did during the year about education, about corruption. I mean, it's rampant. The television is a weapon. I mean, I'm on it trying to counteract it using their weapon and to get information out why we still can, and to use the internet. This show is also available on the internet. But this is what's going on. And our mother also warned us back then that these times would be worse because many who should have spoken out will remain silent. Woe unto you. See, and they hate me. And I mean, they hate me and come after me for not being silent. They want me to be like them, and I don't want to be like you. I want to be like my Savior, because He's my Savior, not you. You can't do anything to me. You can temporally hurt me. You can hurt my flesh, and I've been warned and threatened before. That's the way it goes. I am more concerned about where I'm going to be in 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, 1,000 years. At the turn of the next millennium, we're still going to be alive. But we're not going to be in the same place. You better make a decision and pick up your cross and start carrying it. Some of the disgusting things that have been going on TV, and all of the sexuality, and the worst sexuality isn't the homosexuality, it's the heterosexuality. The bulk of the sins are from heterosexuals. I would not let children watch TV at all. Because even if it's a good show, they're putting subliminal messages into the show, and this is open. All of the shows, if you want to find out about propaganda, just watch any of the mainstream shows. It's all propaganda. I mean, it's being paid, and they've openly said they're doing that, and they are. I mean, just look at the scripts. They're almost all just laying it out in our face. The stories from Hollywood, everywhere. And boy, I pray for those who are fomenting this upon the youth. Because Jesus warned those who are trying to openly, knowingly corrupt the youth, both overtly and those who are in positions of power over the youth, who look the other way, who are lukewarm. You're going to be treated even more harshly than those who are doing it. You know, that's not me. That's in the Bible. I spit you out of my mouth because you're lukewarm. And we are living in the book of Revelation, as you'll see. The key is Alpha and Omega, and it's already started. We've already started in a bunch of things which I've shown many times throughout the year. And here's where a bunch of these guys go every summer. This happened again this summer. The end of July, first part of August, Bohemian Grove. They did a mock sacrifice of a child. Oh, you didn't hear that on the mainstream news? No, I don't suppose. But you can go down to the library. Downtown Seattle was the only place that I could really find it in the country. It might be gone now that I've been mentioning it so many times. I mean, I made photocopies of the microfiche, but it was February, I think 21st or 20th, 21st, whatever Sunday is, in the Parade magazine of the Seattle Times is an article, Trouble Comes to Paradise, about this. And right in the article, the problem was just that it's an all-male thing, and there's tons of homosexuality going on there. I mean, just type in Bohemian Grove and find out about it. There's so much stuff. I have so much stuff on it. It's sick, quite frankly, what goes on at this place. This is right from their own annals. I mean, that last picture was also from one of their members. But this was a book that was sent to us. And here's the owl. This is right out of the Old Testament. The altar where they do the mock sacrifice of a child every summer. And then there's all these weirdos dressed up in fancy priestly garb. And then they bring the child in an effigy right here. Oh yeah, they didn't tell you about that? Every Republican president in the 20th century has been there. Some Democrats. Of course, now the Democrats just go for out and out, for real sacrifice. We call it Planned Parenthood, abortion, which is the sacrifice of a child on the altar of lust and convenience. And Satan loves it. False flag operations. Nothing has changed since the beginning of time. It's just the same game. And this was before the Ukraine war. These were some icons over there in that region where the Virgin Mary started to weep. Tears of blood and just regular tears. Because we're being set up for World War III. That's what's going on. As they collapse the economy, they need boogeymen to blame it on. They want to get rid of Putin because he's not a wimp, and he's trying. And listen, he's ex-KGB. I know where the guy's coming from. I don't think he's the greatest guy since Swiss cheese, but at least he cares about his people. At least he's paying people to have children. And we'll get into a little more of some of the shenanigans that have been going on over there. Because you can look it up. We did stories about that this year. How we spent $5 billion. They brag about it. You can listen to the State Department woman say, yeah, we spent $5 billion to overthrow the Ukrainian government. Imagine what we would do if somebody spent $5 billion. Well, maybe Obama would help him because he's a complete globalist. But if they were trying to overthrow Canada, you know, we'd be a little bit upset. And then during the revolution, we did articles on that this year. And you can find that online and listen to the people talk about it, where the people who were being shot on both sides of this conflict, when they did autopsies on them, they had bullets from the same rifle. This is what they do. They get us to fight amongst ourselves. It's called divide and conquer. Made famous by Julius Caesar, and he was hardly the first to do it in the Gallic Wars. Or we had Paul in the Bible do it, when he picked the Pharisees and the Sadducees against each other by using a controversial topic, and instead of them focusing on him like they were, then they focused against each other. Of course, with the help of God, to bring that about, to save Paul, because he wanted Paul to make it to Rome, to be martyred in Rome. Now, here's that plane that went down. And what does this represent? This represents the normal flight path of the plane. What does this represent? The day that it was shot down, and there's even a lot of shenanigans on who really shot it down, but let's just look at these hard, cold, irrefutable facts that this is where it did go on a regular basis before that day, and this is where it went the day it was shot down. Now what, you're trying to tell me that Putin called up the Ukrainians and said, hey, I'd like you to divert this flight over some area that we have? Get a grip. Get a grip as to how evil the people are that run this world. And of course that wasn't the only plane that we had some shenanigans with. This was that famous plane that just vanished. And no, I do not believe it crashed. I have heard some generals talk about it. That they wouldn't say where because they wouldn't get into all of their information. But we know for a fact that nothing was found of the plane. The probability that the plane just up and vanished is virtually zero. What happened? We don't know. But it was, I mean, we don't know. Probably someday. There was some interesting stuff I did during the year on it. How, like this Trident, and where they finally said that it supposedly went down was sort of alluded to in some movies, because that's what these people love to do. They love to throw it in our face what they're going to do, and that's also part of how this works. They have to tell you what they're going to do, and you have to let them do it to you. See, I'm resistant. I'm saying no. What are you going to do? Speaking the truth in deceitful times is a revolutionary act. George Orwell, in his book 1984. And if you can't see 1984 unfolding in front of us, my friends, you're not looking. Now this was a real Peace Prize winner. Malala, that young girl who was shot in Pakistan for going to school. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff going on in the world. We need to pray, because you're no good if you don't. Prayer and fasting can change history. It can stop wars. And it can lessen what is going on. And if you don't pray and fast, there's really very little that you're doing. You might be doing some stuff, but this is a spiritual battle at the highest level. And the dark side's children know who they work for. Of course, they think that Lucifer is the light. That's what Lucifer means, light. But another fake war. We conquered the world in 4 years. This is an endless war in Iraq. Now, look at this caravan. How easy would it have been to get rid of these guys? We have plenty of assets in the area watching what's going on. From drones to fighter planes. Could have taken out and done huge damage. But it's not good for money. It's not good for business. You know, and we got that Peace Prize president. He's doing a good thing. And Malala, a real Peace Prize winner, gave him a little grief about what he's doing. And here's how fake it all is. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, I mean, well, these guys are cheap, I guess, because they use the same sign. They're saying the flag didn't change between Al-Qaeda and ISIS. It's just the exact same thing. And it's run by the same people. And the lower level guys, they all hate our guts, and there's some nasty dudes. But the people are bought and sold, as I mentioned in probably the last show I did last summer. I told the Egyptian gals that we had a ledger that name the names of who in the Muslim Brotherhood were getting bought off. And those people have risen up because they wanted, I mean, see, these guys are not invincible if you just stand up to them. And the Egyptians have stood up and are fighting for their freedom. And I pray for the Egyptians, and we all should, because they're fighting the globalists. You know, they wanted the Muslim Brotherhood in power there to help destabilize the region even more, because it's order out of chaos. That's part of how this works. We've done a lot of stories about some of the police brutality, and they're trying to get a war between the people and the police. And listen, they don't just beat up black guys. It might be a little more than that, but I've been hassled by cops before, and I've met great cops before. There's good and bad, as in any group. And there's some federalized ones that are a little worse. And then it generally gets better. I mean, we've had the problems here in Seattle. You know, like I said, and I've been pulled over before. There was that cop's son, Kelly Thomas, who they beat to death. Oh, he was white. Who they beat to death a few years ago. Mike Wallace from 60 Minutes, who they roughed up in New York. This is quite a few years ago now that they did that. But so, and it's different in different locales and stuff. But I tell you, I don't ever talk back to the police generally. I mean, it's, you know, and I've had them pull some shenanigans on me before. But it's, they've got guns and I don't. And I'm not getting into a shooting war. I pray for them. And Fukushima, they're not talking about that. The radiation hit. We did stories this year about the die-offs, more down in California than up here. But that, and we're building more nuke power. And I'm 100% behind getting some alternative energy going. They've been controlling it from solar power. We've done stories about Bloom Energy has those little power units. And there's other technologies out there that are being suppressed. That's the reality of it. And Obama just pretends, it's like, it was either Stalin or Lenin. I think there's a quote of one of those two guys that said is, the best way to control the opposition is to take it over. And you only need to control a few people in an organization to really steer it. And that's what they do. And here's the waterboarding stuff. Who we need to waterboard is Dick Cheney. If we waterboarded Dick Cheney, we'd find out what really happened on 9/11. I mean, I've shown you the documents where he took over the shoot-down orders from the generals that they've had, and then after 9/11 was done, then he gave it back to them. I mean, that dude is evil. And I was talking to a retired professor from West Point after a talk that he gave at a university, and I was really blunt, like I am generally on this show. And he looked around. There was only a couple guys up there with me, and he said, "Dick Cheney's a traitor," and he is. And then, of course, we have Mr. Peace Prize here. You know, why don't you just blow him up with a drone? And here's a couple of great things. A quote from Martin Luther King. He says that, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed." And we've progressed a long ways in the last 50 years, believe me, a long ways. But we have a long way to go. And unfortunately, some really evil people have come into power. And Alexander Solzhenitsyn, another real guy who was a Nobel Peace Prize winner, said anyone who has proclaimed violence as his method inexorably must choose lying as his principle. And Obama rarely tells the truth. I mean, the unaffordable care, I mean, just everything he talks about but he's an anointed, and we're the fools. And they'll throw him under the bus before it's all done. And here's another quote from him. We do not err because truth is difficult to see. It is visible at a glance. We err because this is more comfortable. It's more comfortable to believe we don't know what's going on. And one of the things he's about to push is the more climate change stuff. And we've been doing articles, we did a ton of articles this year about last winter, how the Great Lakes froze over. The ice packs are expanding. They're actually expanding up in the North Pole, and but it doesn't matter. I mean, right now we're having a little bit of a warm spell here, but climate, and that's why they call it climate change. Now, remember a few years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago now, or maybe it's even a little longer ago than that, they started making the change because it was becoming so apparent that it wasn't warming. And that's, remember ClimateGate, those emails we got from Copenhagen where they said, yeah, none of our models are right, and da-da-da-da. And I've shown you before how they said it was going to cool, it's going to warm. Climate change, that's what it is. There is real pollution going on that they don't talk about, from genetically modified foods, genetically modified animals, I mean, all sorts of crazy stuff. Like DARPA is talking about adding a chromosome, a 47th chromosome to us. I mean, we live in la-la land, complete la-la land. There's a humongous fights. We talk about them every year because it's ongoing to control the internet. The FCC came out, and Obama makes it sound good, and the talking heads get on, and oh yeah, it's so good. He's so for net neutrality. No, what we really need is true net neutrality. We don't want to get into the China model. And a lot of people do not understand artificial intelligence. That was one of the things I was studying, because I had a much different plan than doing stuff like this. I studied microbiology and computer science. And specifically, I was dealing with stuff in this field. And this is probably what is going to become this beast that they give the voice to, and it'll probably be a female voice. That's sort of what it's looking like. The beast that's spoken of in the book of Revelation, in the 13th chapter of the book of Revelation. And if you've never read the book of Revelation, you should. But once again, it will be controlled. I'm going to do a special report just on that, a short one, but we don't have time to get into it now. But the long and the short of it is that it is controllable by whoever programs it. If you understand programming and knowledge-based systems and how it works, they're not going to be living. They're always going to be robots and just a machine. And they're trying to chip us. This summer I actually found the clip where this shot was taken from. And there's a lot of stuff coming up. 2017 is going to be an interesting year. It's the 100-year anniversary of Fatima. There's also a very interesting thing. When I was in Europe this summer, one of the guys that I was talking to over there said, oh, hey, man, you know what they tried to do to us? Because I got there in May. And this has been going on for a couple of years, and it's been retracted now. And of course, there's plenty of people out there who will lie and say, oh no, this was never proposed or anything like that. But they proposed to chip all newborn babies by last May of 2014. But there was not in the hand. They weren't, because this will be done incrementally. This was just going to be around the elbow. Then would have to be recharged, he said, every couple of years. But and it would have been optional. But they were going to sell it as a good thing, so you could find your child. And I mean, initially it's going to be sold as a good thing and not bad. I mean, that's the whole thing with all this hacking going on. There's a lot of false flag stuff there. I don't believe that North Korea knew how to do it. I mean, we have the Stuxnet, that was us doing it. I mean, and there's been some high-level hackers come on and say they don't believe that they have the know-how and the capacity to do as sophisticated a hack as that was. And who benefits? I mean, they're trying to take our freedom and bring more and more control into the internet and stuff. And that's why we've got to get out as much of this information as we can. So pass this on to people you know. Just send it out in your emails, tweets, whatever, the links. But this is real. This is what's going on. And so they backed off. And I physically saw the European Union site where it's been scrubbed. And it says, no, this isn't here anymore. This has been taken down. But they'll be back. This is how they do it. They beta test it. They push. If we push back, it's like a bully. A bully will keep taking your lunch money until you say no. Until you make the change. And here's another one of them, not someone like me reporting on what they're doing. This is them in a book, The Impact of Science on Society, and a friend of mine has the book even because he couldn't believe it, that they would say this, but through diet, injections, and injunctions will combine from a very early age to produce the sort of character and the sort of beliefs that the authorities consider desirable. And any serious criticism of the powers that will become psychologically impossible. And you can listen to Aldous Huxley, the guy from in the very beginning, give a speech at Berkeley where he says that. Well, yeah, the people would never revolt against what we're going to do to them, even though we're going to be killing them. He openly says that. I mean, he uses the thing of, yeah, it'd be as unthinkable for the people to revolt as it would be for lambs to revolt against the practice of eating mutton. Huxley's an Englishman, so mutton is their word for cooked lamb. How in your face. You can listen to it right now. The Berkeley speech before he died in the 60s. Talking to, who's he talking to? To post-grad psychologists and shrinks. That's it. And take a look at ecoscience. We've done a lot of stories on ecoscience. I just saw that loser on TV the other day. John P. Holdren. That's a postgraduate level book that he wrote talking about, here's GMO food. Hey, it looks like something I want to eat. You know the wars we've had here in Seattle. Here's what we're drinking. Sodium fluoride. I mean, right there, there's so much evidence. I've got a website about this, Wake Up Seattle, because I mean, this is like a little thing. I mean, if you can't even, I mean, look at one of the target organs is the teeth. That's why, and for those of you who might have missed it or forgot about it, just a couple years ago they had to lower the dosage. Why? Because it was damaging us so bad that people were, beginning to wake up, so they backed it off. And take a look at what it says. If you use fluoridated toothpaste, look at the warning on the back of it, where it says if a child under 6 eats more of the toothpaste than is used for brushing, to call the poison control people. So how much damage is being done by just swallowing the amount that is used for brushing? That's the size of a pea. Do some research on this. This isn't me. I mean, I've seen people laughing on TV about how they're jacking the water. It's been on national TV. Do you see any of these people, any of our leaders, the holy people, any of our civic leaders talk about this? Hell no. None of them do. Here's a great free online, the Great Culling. That's just, I mean, there's so much information. There was a woman, a doctor in chemistry or something, Molinex, and she put her life on the line for telling the truth. And you gutless weenies who want to be our leaders, who won't even look at this, you're a disgrace. A complete disgrace. Oh, but we're so holy. We're so righteous. We're so conservative. We're anti-abortion. Yeah, you may be anti-abortion, but you're not pro-life. And here's one of these guys. You can listen to him. This was just a recent scandal. You know, the stupid American voter. Yeah. What side are you on? And by doing nothing, you've chosen a side. And in the end, you will be, I'm not judging you, I'm just warning you. You can do whatever you want. It's your business. Here's one of the latest deals. We warn people all the time about vaccines. I got stuff on that because of what they're putting in it, how they're jacking it up. And even in a normal year, it's like they say around a 10% chance that they guessed right. Now they're coming out and saying, on TV even, oh, it's not going to work, but get your flu shot anyway. And remember what that guy said just a couple slides ago? And that was, 50, 60 years ago. He said through diet injections. They never used to push these injections like they are now. Never. Don't worry about it. We know. We're the anointed. Just do what we say. Oh, and give us a little money too, please. Give us some money. You don't believe me? This is a screenshot from the Centers for Disease Control's own damn website. Okay? If you've never heard of SV40, where they openly admit more than 98 million Americans receive tainted vaccine with a cancer-causing virus. Do some research on that. SV40. You don't got to think too much about that. Don't worry about it. I was talking to a guy from a conservative church, a Latin church, who makes money in this field. He goes, oh, I've never seen any credible evidence about bad vaccines. And I just started listing it off. Just some. I mean, here it is. Here's their own damn website. And of course, that's no big deal. Here's the FDA's website. Well, yeah, there's 100,000 deaths yearly. Yearly. The adverse drug reactions. You ever hear that on the news? No, man. We got to get your guns. There's so many people dying. We don't want to talk about the SSRIs, serotonin and reuptake inhibitors, and that's one of their side effects. No, and we don't want you to protect yourself because we know how bad we're going to screw you guys. But give up your guns. It's of the Lord, not to protect yourself. Ebola. We did a story about that this year before it became a story here, and we didn't even get into all of the shenanigans, but that this was just a setup for worse things coming, and I'm going to do some stuff, because there is an incurable pandemic coming, but we have the cure. It's going to be faith in Jesus, and anyway, I've mentioned it before. I'll do a separate little thing on that when I get some time here. This is at Woodrow Wilson's White House. He's the guy who set up the current Federal Reserve Bank, and he used to keep these sheep on the White House lawn. And it's interesting, it'll play into what's coming here. And here's another guy. There's a book that he wrote, Edward Bernays. I've got this book where it talks about, controlling people. And he did tons of work for the government, helped sell the fluoride in the water, worked for the military. Look him up if you want to learn more about it. And here's Building 7, the Great Lie. This building just magically fell down. Magically falls down at 5:20 in the afternoon. Of course, everyone's invoking that this year. Again, oh yeah, everything changed because of 9/11. Well, no, nothing changed. It's just the same old crap. You guys will believe anything you're told. But now there's over 2,000 architects and engineers who put their livelihood on the line. Did you ever hear about that at church? Or from our politicians? Of course not. Hell, there's very few people who would put their livelihood on the line, let alone their own flesh. They're too busy being holy, comfortably holy. These guys have put their livelihoods on the line. To be mocked by a lot of people. But there's a day when you're going to stand before a person. And guess what? Just in case you've forgotten what he said at the Last Supper, those are the words in red for you Protestants. He said, I am the way. The fairy tale. No, that's not what he said. He said, I am the way, I am the truth, and the life. If you think you're going to get to heaven by believing lies, by promoting lies because they're comfortable, and by going along with people who are nothing but covetous, lying, murdering thieves. Those are just 4 of the commandments, and sometimes they even did them in Jesus' name. You're going to be unhappy when you stand before the Lord. I'm not judging you. I'm simply warning you. This isn't a toothpick in your eye. It's a major beam. And you better start toting it. Because these people are master manipulators. They have been for a very long time. Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes its laws. Because they just buy off the politicians. Now there is some stuff coming up that's changing. This is an interesting thing that's going on. This Bitcoin, it's just one of what they call cryptocurrencies, probably the largest cryptocurrency right now. And this one is completely private, not beholden to any banks or any governments. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm not saying to invest in it. I don't have any money in it at all. But it's something I don't disapprove of. I'm just watching it grow. I just don't have any money. So I don't have any money to invest. I gave everything away to try to help the people. And I literally almost live day to day. And this is one of the things, like I've said, that's coming up. This BRICS group is setting up a competing system. And that'll be part of the prophecy from the 13th chapter in the book of Revelation. The buying and selling and the total control. Because this global system's being set up, and who's going to be in charge of it. We can get more into that. That's more prophecy, and I'll just deal with that in a separate deal. And remember, this is one of the most classic examples of this fake left-right paradigm that we live under. That there's actually a major difference between the Democrats and the Republican. And that was this bipartisan bill that was just passed. And it's interesting that it's a money bill, because some of the caveats that were in that for the banking system were to sign us on to their derivatives, which is if they lose money, we're stuck with their losses, and there's no way we could never pay it off. The numbers range from 600 trillion to 2 quadrillion, somewhere in there. I mean, it's such a large. We're going to have to do. The one last interesting thing though about this happened obviously just before Christmas. That's also when they snuck in the Federal Reserve Act back in 1913, 101 years ago. The bankster takeover just rolls right along. My friend, it's called incrementalism. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Take a look outside the frying pan. It's not nice out. The heat is way up, baby. 9/11, remember, that's a call for help. And it's also the anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi's very first protest. You can look that up on the Gandhi Institute. They'll tell you about that. We must be the change that we wish to see in the world. That's what Mahatma Gandhi said. This is going to be a revolution of love. It is going to be a bloody revolution. Many, many, many people are going to die. Billions of people are going to die. That's what's coming, not in the distant future, in the very near future. It's already begun. It's already begun. Cancer rates, when I was young, were rare. It's almost rare that you don't get cancer. Seek the truth and bear witness to it. Jesus can see what's going on, and there will be change. Through prayer and fasting, we can change the world. My name is Tim Bernard. Infowars.com is a great place to go. BS Free Press is my website where you can see tons of information. Here's how you can contact me. You can tell people about the show. 6 to 7 on Monday, Friday 1 to 2. And remember what my Sioux brother said, Matakawe Oisin, we are all related. And Merry Christmas, and have a Happy New Year. And may God bless you. Goodbye.